We are walking down the street. Got the bag there for him to sign. Almost there. Welcome back to The Mix. I'm ABD. So we did make a trek all the way to the Chicago Music Exchange to meet Paul Reed Smith. And there was bad traffic on the way there. It took a long time to get there. The event started at 7 p.m. and I got there at about 7:02. And when I arrived, the event had already started. So I waited at the front of the store to check in my guitar. People could bring guitars to get signed by Paul and other items, so I brought a guitar. I actually brought a Tele, not a PRS, to get signed, and we'll get back to that later. But once I checked in my guitar at the front, I gave them my case and they put a tag on it with a corresponding number, and they gave me that number for later. And then I joined the presentation. And the first thing that was happening was Paul was having Nathaniel Murphy play guitar. And if you don't know who Nathaniel Murphy is, he is a phenomenal guitarist who works at the Chicago Music Exchange, and he just recently did an interview with Rick Beato. You can find that in the description down below. Rick Beato has a great channel, all things music production and interviewing people from the industry, and you can find Nathaniel Murphy on social media platforms as well. So after he had Nathaniel play for a short time and he gave him a hard time about how great of a guitarist he is, then Paul played a little bit. They had one of their newer HRX Hendrix amps plugged in, and let me tell you, I have not heard one of those in person before, but holy crap, did it sound amazing in that room. And so Paul played a little bit. There was a couple in the front. This woman was offering to buy her husband a guitar, any guitar that he wanted. And so Paul pulled out one of Paul's guitars, one of the guitars that they make based on his favorite guitar. And he was showing it to them and he said, you can have it if you want. And I don't know if they actually bought that guitar or not. But after that, Paul opened up the floor for questions. And we did get, I think, some pretty good questions from the audience. Of course, there were the infamous questions about Tonewood.
Hang on a minute. I'm going to ask you a question. It's a reasonable question. They call it a fingerboard because that's where your fingers would be. And typically, they didn't use rosewoods or ebonies or any of that for the sound of the instrument. They used it to keep your sweat from ruining the guitar because the rosewood was full of oil.
And Paul basically talked about how tonewood is part of the equation of what makes guitar sound the way it does. Every piece of the guitar is part of that equation, from the strings to the neck, the fretboard material, the nut material, obviously the pickups, and then the tonewood. All of those things go into the way a guitar sounds, and it's only a matter of how much of each one of those components make up the actual tone.
Or something beautiful about when Alex plays that melody incredibly quickly, or you were playing the melody in the Beatles. I mean, that's music, right? That's music. And really, in the end, the reason I wanted to do this is we're playing the same guitar, we're playing the same game, and we're going through tune after tune after tune after tune, and you can hear the melody of it. And then sometimes people forget to play melodies. They type, they do wild things that don't make sense to me. But when guitar players are playing melodies, oh my God, it's not fair. And you go see these people play like David Gilmour.
And another question that he received from somebody was how he continues to find inspiration to make new and exciting things at PRS. And one of the things he talked about is he can find inspiration in many, many things. One thing that he said he finds inspiration in is paintings. He said he can find inspiration in artistry even in one brush stroke of a painting. And I thought that was a really interesting and honest answer about finding inspiration in art as you get older. He also talked about some of the people that work at PRS were art students that went to college and got degrees in art and ended up working at PRS, and they weren't sure how they were going to use their degrees. And then he showed some of the beautiful, beautiful tops that they have in the guitars and talked about how they've become a palette for a lot of these people that work at PRS. He talked about trading people in the art of making guitars, even people that don't necessarily or won't necessarily work for PRS. He just talked about the art of teaching and passing along knowledge to the next generation. He also talked about how disappointing it is in school that we spend all of our focus and money on the athletic programs in school, not focusing as much on how we teach our students. And that got a round of applause. Paul is a really special person, someone that's been in the industry for a very long time, with just a breadth of knowledge about the industry, and music, and guitars, and he's a very kind, humble person, and it was brilliant just to be in the room with him.
I'm pretty quick. I have an early flight tomorrow, anyway, so warmth in my heart. Thank you very much.
And so at the end, when it was time to sign everything, random numbers from those tags that we got earlier started being called, and people that didn't have guitars got in line to get whatever they had signed as well. So luckily, it didn't take that long before my number was called. And when I first came in and checked in the guitar, they said, "What model PRS is it?" And I said, "It's a Tele." And they said, "What?" I said, "It's a Tele. I have a Tele for Paul to sign." And I could have got a PRS signed by him. I have one PRS currently, but I'm going to sell it because it's not my favorite finish. And so I didn't want to get, obviously, a guitar signed that I'm getting rid of. And so I figured I would have one of my favorite guitars signed by Paul. And so they pulled out the guitar, and they got it ready for him. And I approached Paul, and he was looking at me. I said, "I have a Tele for you." And he looked at me and said, "What?" I said, "I have a Tele for you." He said, "What do you want me to do with that?" "Where is it?" I said, "Behind you." And so he turned around, and he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Anthony." And he said, "What do you want me to write?" I said, "I just want you to write, 'Tonewood is real.'" And he said, "What if I write 'nice guitar'?" And I said, "You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want." So on the neck here, he signed "To Anthony, Paul Reed Smith." So on the front, we have Fender. On the back, we have Paul Reed Smith. And so what I'm going to do to make up for that, Paul, if you're listening, I'm going to put a PRS pickup in this guitar. Maybe two, but definitely one. And then it'll make a little more sense that we have PRS on this guitar. But it's one of my favorite guitars. I built it for the channel about a year and a half ago. And I still haven't posted that video because the saga of the guitar continues. So part one of that video will probably be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But thank you to Chicago Music Exchange for having Paul. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you everyone that was there and asked questions and played guitar and made it a fun and interesting time. To the couple that the wife was going to buy her husband a guitar, what guitar did you get? Did you pick one out? Thank you for watching. Thank you, Paul. And to everyone out there, play guitar and be awesome.
To me, the bass note of that one is slightly louder. The high end, when I go up on the high string, and this one holds together better. Did you hear that? Yeah. And the mid-range of this was different than that. They both sounded beautiful, but very different. But a lot of it's the guitar. So let me show you. But the acoustic tone makes no difference whatsoever. You can hear it in the guitar. Right, so the mid-range of this guitar is different. So to me, that was one of the most difficult things I ever did, to get that stunning sound in these things right off the wall.
It was a success. We were on our way home. Paul signed my telly. I said, I have a telly for you. He said, where is it? I said, right behind you. He turned around, what do you want me to do with that? I said, could you write Tone Wood is Real? And he said, what if I write nice guitar? And so I believe that's what he wrote. I haven't looked at it yet. But we'll take a picture of it and we'll debrief when we get home. Thanks for watching. So on the neck here, he signed to Anthony. So on the